What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon on this Sunday, the first Sunday after the draft. And since we are still kind of picking up the pieces from the 2024 NFL draft and trying to figure out where we stand and trying to figure out how we feel about it, I want to start from a very simple yet very important place when trying to figure out how to feel about these picks. And we're going to put aside all of our personal feelings. We're going to put aside all of our own evaluations. We're going to put aside positional value. We're going to put aside need. We're going to put aside all that stuff. And I just want to ask one simple question. And it's the question that I always try to make sure everything comes back to when it comes to the draft. When I'm evaluating the draft that the Seattle Seahawks have, especially with the way our drafts went completely out of control for a several year-long period. From basically, I think you could say 2013 to 2021. The question quite simply is, are the Seahawks getting good value? Objectively speaking, are they getting good value? I think that there is a belief, and I think the belief is correct, that if your team obeys that, looks at that question and makes sure that they are always answering yes to it, eventually things will work out. And that is the question we stopped asking ourselves from 2013 to 2021, which is why most of those drafts were so bad and why we couldn't get that last little push that we needed to get back to being a Super Bowl team after the back-to-back Super Bowls. So this is what I want to answer. I want to answer it as objectively as possible. Did the Seahawks get good value? And again, this has nothing to do with what you think or what I think. This is what the consensus thought. This is what people as a monolith thought. So you may feel differently, and I may feel differently. That's not what we're talking about. What I'm trying to figure out is, did the Seahawks reach for any of these picks? I've got all the picks on screen right now from field goals, but it's also from our brains because we know what all the picks were because we watched the draft yesterday, over the last 3 days before this one. But did they, objectively speaking, get value with their picks? And if the answer to that is yes, then it can't be bad. How can it be bad when you're getting good value? Okay, so let's go one by one. First pick, 16th overall, Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle from Texas. Let's go to the aggregate big board. Let's go to NFLmockdraftdatabase.com, take a look, and you will see it. Very plainly and simply, by the end of the pre-draft process, NFL Mock Draft Database, on their consensus big board, which is compiled using over 200 big boards, over 1,500 mock drafts, and over 1,300 team-based drafts, they had Byron Murphy at 13. So that is a massive amount of data, all conglomerated together to come up with the conclusion that Byron Murphy was the 13th best player in this class. So it's a good pick. Objectively speaking, it's good. Now, I might feel like Byron Murphy isn't the 13th best player in this class, and I don't, but that is what the consensus came to. So from an objective, authoritative look, with that first pick, the Seahawks got good value. Second pick, Christian Haynes, guard from UConn, 81st overall. 81st. I don't think I need to say this. I think we all know what happened with this pick. Yeah, you did pretty dang good. At 81 overall, you got the 66th best player on the aggregate big board. Again, this is compiled using an insane amount of data from all kinds of different people. It is effectively meshing everybody who does this on some level officially and coming up with data points that take into account pretty much everything. Now, this is stuff that is from recent times, right? The older a big board gets, the less it's going to apply. But that's a good thing too, right? That means the stuff that happened after the combine, or after character issues came to light, or after this, or after that, that stuff is weighted heavily. More, or at least more heavier than stuff that is months old, which is, I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. I think that's clearly a good thing. So Christian Haynes, objectively speaking, was good value. They had him ranked right at the top of round number 3, and we picked him in the middle of round number 3. Okay, so with the first 2 picks the Seahawks made, regardless of how we may personally feel, the Seahawks got good value. So we're off to a good start here. Now, what happened after those 2 picks? Tyrese Knight, round 4, pick 118. Let's go to the big board here. Tyrese Knight ended up ranked at 189. He was never at any point during the pre-draft process ranked higher than 114. So there was a point where he was ranked right around where he went, but by the end of the pre-draft process, he was ranked at 189. And that's not really good value, right? There were other linebackers you could have taken that would have been better value or even good value. Now, I think some of those linebackers probably don't fit what Mike McDonald wants. I think Jeremiah Trotter may have been too small for him. I think that he probably looked at Tyrese Knight as being somebody more in line with what he wants personally, and that's fine. But this is kind of the issue with this pick. We kind of got away from the value approach. Now, I'll say this. Taking value is a lot less important on day 3. If you have guys that you just love more than anybody else and you want to make sure you get them no matter what, that's understandable on day 3. On day 1 and 2, you want to suppress the urge to love a guy more than you should. But day 3, okay, I get it. It's not the same thing, and I'm not going to pretend that it is. But this is the issue with the Tyrese Knight pick. This is why a lot of people don't like it very much. And to me, it is the only big problem with the pick because I like the player. I think he's a little bit better than this ranking personally. I think that there's some unique potential here. But at the same time, Tyrese Knight, not good value. You probably could have gotten him later. You did have another pick later in the 4th. You had picks in the 6th round that may have been sufficient to get Tyrese Knight. We'll never know. But I think that you can, if you're asking the question, did you get good value with this pick? The answer is no, you didn't. And then a couple picks later, you get A.J. Barner, the tight end out of Michigan, 121. What about him? 171 on the aggregate. So I think the answer is the same as the last one. You did not get good value. And there were other tight ends who are ranked higher, in some cases significantly higher, that you could have gotten at that spot, like Cade Stover, like Theo Johnson. I think Jared Wiley was still on the board as well. Now, I understand that A.J. Barner fills a very specific niche with his really good inline blocking skills. But if you're trying to get value, if you're trying to get the best players, the answer to whether or not you followed that value proposition with A.J. Barner, it's no, you didn't. And that doesn't automatically make the pick bad. That doesn't automatically make the player bad. That doesn't mean we won't look back at this and go, no, that really worked out. A.J. Barner, as of right now, we have to say, not good value. You probably could have gotten him in the 5th round. That's where I had him going. That's where a lot of people had him going. All right. Nehemiah Pritchett. Let's move on to the 5th round here with Pritchett, pick 135. Where was he on the consensus big board? He was 137th, so basically dead on. Basically straight on. Now, again, I want to stress this. I liked Pritchett a lot more than most people. I had him higher on my big board by about 40 spots. I really like Pritchett. But if you're taking a look at all the data that we have, The consensus big board says we got basically bang on appropriate value. So I guess the answer is yes. We didn't get better than average value, but we got appropriate value. So could you have done better theoretically? I guess. There were definitely guys on the board at that time that would have had more value, but you didn't do badly here. So the answer remains yes. Round 6, pick 172. You get Sataoa Lomia. So that's 172. Where was he? 163. So here, the answer is yes. You got appropriate value. You got a player that was projected to go in about the 5th round in the early 6th round. So you pretty much hit it nail on the head. Pretty good. Round 6, pick 192. DJ James, cornerback out of Auburn. DJ James, cornerback out of Auburn. Aggregate big board says 109. So you did great here. Whatever DJ James ends up being, you absolutely got value here according to the consensus of pretty much everybody that does this professionally. So yeah, you absolutely got value with DJ James. And then Michael Jarrell, get him at pick 207. Did you get value here? No, not even close. Again, I want to stress this. It's a 6th round pick, bottom end of the 6th round. It's totally understandable to throw away a pick like that on a guy that you personally like as a pet project that you want to make sure you get because you don't want to have to leave it up to the whims of UDFA. You don't want it to be a race to whoever calls his phone first. But if you want to be objective about it, the value wasn't there. He wasn't even projected to be among the top 300 UDFAs on the aggregate big board. So I guess the answer to the question is mostly. Mostly, the Seattle Seahawks got good value with their picks. Murphy and Haynes, Pritchett, Lomia, and James were appropriate or better value. Knight, Barner, and Jarrell were not. So they got good value more than they didn't. And the places where they didn't get good value are more understandable. This is not equivalent at all to drafting LJ Collier late in the 1st round when most places had like a 3rd or 4th round grade on him. This is not the same as taking Jordan Brooks in the 1st round when a lot of places had a 3rd or 4th round grade on him. This is not Rashad Penny going in the 1st round when he was generally evaluated to be a late 2nd rounder. Or Jermaine Ifedi, maybe the best example ever. I saw him mostly in like the 4th round, and then we take him in the 1st. Those are the killers. And we avoided that this year with both of our top 100 picks. And if you want to mess around a little bit on day 3, I'm a little more understanding of that. And I think it's far more forgivable and far more likely to work out in a very positive way or not work out in a very minorly negative way. But those are the facts. Whatever we may think, the consensus big board tells us that for the most part the Seahawks obeyed best player available, or at the very least getting appropriate value. They didn't always get the best player on the big board, but they did fine. All right. So let me know how you feel about this. I just wanted to go ahead and set the record straight here. Last year, I had a lot of people tell me the Seahawks made a terrible value pick on Devin Witherspoon. So later in the offseason, I had to make a video saying, I'm sorry, guys, you're wrong. The aggregate big board says that Devin Witherspoon was worthy of a top 6 pick. He went 5th. I think he was literally ranked 5th on the big board, the aggregate big board when the season, when the draft started. So we got him at 5th. He was ranked 5th. That's not a reach. And I think a lot of people were surprised by that. They didn't know Witherspoon had gone that far up the board at the end there. So I want to go ahead and just get this all out there before that conversation heats up. So do with the data as you will. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks.